So after we're done with our assembly, our last step will be to do the presentation view, which is a different type of file. It's the last file that we haven't done. And we'll need to do that for the mallet head and the whole pegboard. So if we go up to new file, IPN is our presentation. And it works somewhat similarly to an assembly in that we have to bring in something. So we want to go to create view, and it's already pulling up my assembly there, but otherwise we would search for it like we did. I want the explosion method set to manual and click OK, and then it'll bring my part in. I want to go up to tweak components, and there will be this box that says direction and components, and that's really what the most important thing is. I like to maximize all of this over here so I can see what component is actually selected. So I will start with, by clicking on components, I'll start with this end. Notice when I click on it here, it lights up over here. If you ever have two parts moving at once, you may need to unselect one of them from over here. So once I've selected that component, then I can click on direction. I can come over here and click it, and then I can either enter my numbers up here, or I can just grab and pull. Okay, I'm going to hit the check mark there. I'm going to go back to component. I'm going to grab this other leg. Now notice how that one stayed highlighted. I don't want them both, okay? So I'm going to get rid of one and just click on the other one. Go back to direction, click on the part, and that's the axis I want. Bring that straight out. You can type in the numbers manually if you want it all to look really uniform. Hit the check mark. Now, really what my goal is when this is done is to be able to see everything and where it came from. So when I'm back in components and I want all three pegs here, I can, if I want, use the control button should let me get all three of these, but it's not. So I've got all three of them selected. So now when I go to direction, I'm just going to pull all three of them out. I could stagger them if I want to. I could do them one at a time so I can see them better. But today, I'll just go with that. Hit my check mark, and then I'll close it. Okay, right now I've got everything pulled apart. So I'll save it. And I may just change the name to Pegboard Presentation and be good to go. A little tricky then when we go to put it on the title block, but nothing major. I'm still going to go with a new DMS title block. Go through this information like we normally do. The scale on this is sometimes tricky because there's a lot of information that you want to put on here. When I bring in the base view, the important thing to me, and see how it's already pulled up here, I know 1-to-1 probably isn't going to work, so I'm going to look at 1/2. That's still pretty far spread apart, a lot further than I thought it was going to be, so maybe I'll go to 1/4. Alright? The thing is, I want to see it in 3D and I want to be able to see all the parts. So I usually switch over to one of the ISOs, and I really don't like how any of those look, so I'm going to go to my custom view, and that looks like a pretty good view, right? You can see all the parts, you can see the shapes and where they come from, so that was pretty easy. I'm going to bring that in, and go ahead and shade it. And all I want is that one view, okay? So I'm going to set it out here where I have a little bit of room, and then I need to switch over to annotate. And I will start with my balloons up here. So I click on balloon, and I always want to click on the corners of the part. I don't want to click down here and drag all the way across. So I'm going to click here. This is where it's coming from, so I'll just click OK. Then I'll have a balloon pop up. So I'll go left click, right click, continue. Click on the corner, left click, right click, continue. Corner, left click, right click, continue. Left click, right click, continue. Left click, right click, continue. Left click on the corner. Left click, right click, continue. So I've got all my balloons that tell me which part is which. The last thing I need to do is put my parts list on. I've got to find the assembly because that's where the parts come from. The parts list, I always want to lock it right into the corner. So all I did was move it in there and click. Now notice we have a column here, the description column, that we don't use. So what I have to do, and this is kind of tricky, you can see right now how I moved it and there's 4 arrows next to my cursor. If I double click when I have the 4 arrows, this will pop up. This is the column chooser, so I click that. I click description, I click remove, OK. Then I've got to get those 4 arrows lit up again so I can move it back over to the corner. And that is all there is to your presentation views. The mallet head and mallet handle assembly, you do that also, but that's much simpler. That's just 2 parts. Okay? Thanks, guys.